I've been thinking about what it means to be a Stuart Gipp in Video World, and I think I've come to terms with precisely what that is. I went into CEX the other day. Americans, that's a chain of second-hand media stores that focuses on video games. They got walls and walls of great games cheap. When I picked up my 360, I got all the Halo games for a total of 11 quid. Games don't hold their value, but that's another feature. Anyway, I'm in CEX and I realise that I'm actively filled with glee when I find a game I've never heard of, especially if it's based on a movie or something. Like I found Clash of the Titans on PS3 and I was actively thrilled. Huge grin on my face, like, oh my god, this is shit. Like grabbing my friend with a copy of Cursed Crusade, this looks shit, we should play this. And he's like, yeah. And I ended up playing this game, Snoopy's Grand Adventure or some crap, and it's not even really cheap. It's like 20 quid. And I get home, and it's nothing but this bog standard 2D platformer, totally rote and unexceptional. And I'm like the happiest man who ever lived, sitting there having Snoopy jump on snakes with Peppermint Patty's hair for some reason. I reckon Schultz would have been made up with this. He'd have been like, that is spot on. I recently traded in a bunch of games there at CEX, and I got more credit than I expected, so I was able to pick up a few games with a PS4. Add me on PSN, I'm MadHair60, I can't let go of that username. And I grabbed a couple of, established good games I knew I'd like, Destiny, Ratchet and Clank, etc. But I also bought the widely panned The Order 1886 out of spite. If I had the credit, I would have picked up No Man's Sky as well, because honestly, I bet it's great, I bet it's absolutely brilliant. I also picked up Saw and Saw 2 at the same time for PS3, because how could I not? How could I not want to own these? They're like a quid. How can I not want them? I bet they're absolutely dreadful. I own Alone in the Dark on 3 separate systems. I'm not even ashamed. It's not even good. I love it. I had to shop around to find the PS3 version. That's what it means to be a Video World. I play something like Saw and I go, hey, this is really silly. These puzzles are silly. This is fun. I'm having fun. And I actually am. I'm enjoying The Order 1886 too. No idea where everyone slags that one off. It's the best looking game I've ever seen and the gunplay feels pretty great. Snoopy is a completely standard, unremarkable side-scroller in a world where we don't get many of those anymore. All the indies are trying to be arty or conscious of their own 8-bitness in a way that makes me want to drown a horse, so I have to lean on these movie-licensed middle-of-the-road that'll-do fests in order to get my jumping on things fixed between Mario games. So that's what it means to be a Stuart Gipp in Video World. It means you like what you like. It means you like video games. Not just some video games, you like all video games, because they are silly. I don't know if I like Unlockables. I don't really think that I miss them. When I think of Unlockables, I think of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and I think of all the really cool, fun content locked behind hours and hours of insidiously difficult racing game. I think of being frustrated that I can't play as those characters, and I think of the time I downloaded a clear game save because fuck off. Then I think about games like Smash Brothers with its extra fighters and trophies, and Soul Calibur and its extra fighters and stages and art galleries, and how much I loved the unlockables in those games, and how much I felt like the drip feed of cool stuff really enhanced the experience. And then I think about games with currency systems where just playing the game nets you this currency you can then use to buy new cool stuff. It doesn't really matter if you're good, eventually you'll be able to sort of grind up enough money. And I think that might be the best way to go. Then I think about the special art gallery in Soul Calibur 2, and I think about that picture of Seong-Mina and Sophitia, and I think about being 16 and seeing that, and I think about how utterly irresponsible it was to put a picture like that in a game adolescent boys are likely to play. What was I talking about again? Congo Bongo, also known as Tip Top, is a superlative 1983 isometric clone of Donkey Kong with elements of Frogger, and one that I find myself going back to time and time again. I think it's a beautiful looking game with the sort of aesthetic one only finds in arcade games of this era. This fantastic sort of quasi 3D effect and excellent character design. Really fun game and well worth playing. It's quite easily available on the PSP version of the Sega Mega Drive collection, as well as the PS3 and 360 Sega Mega Drive Ultimate collection. I think you have to unlock it in both, but it's really easy to do. Absolutely worth your time. Congo Bongo is a bit of an underappreciated classic. Now, What I'm about to cover I sort of went over a bit in the last episode of Franchise and Lows, so if you don't want to hear me rant about the value of retro games again, switch off now and never watch my fucking show again, just kidding. I think there's a serious problem with the way retro games are valued. Not so much the physical games themselves, that's a resale market that fluctuates like all resale markets do, but when it comes to re-releases of retro games, people seem to have gone a bit mental. I frequently see people decrying Nintendo's digital pricing for Virtual Console, and I find it all a bit bloody strange. NES games are, in the UK, £4.49. Now, that's actually less than a fiver. It's 10 times less than the $44.99 you'd probably be paying back in the day. I feel like that's a reasonable price to pay for a NES game. I don't know. People seem to really disagree, calling them ROM dumps, which I've always found odd because it positions the value of games at zero, at the same level as illegal ROM downloads for playing on emulators. Let me just quickly step in and say I'm not making a moral judgment here on emulation. This show wouldn't exist without emulation. I love emulation. But I think its rise has seriously damaged perception of the value of retro games. I could pirate this, so why should I pay for it? It's not a cogent argument. I think, frankly, if you think less than a fiver is too much to pay for a NES game, you're wrong and you're cheap. And that's fine, I guess. You might be asking why I'm defending high prices, but I'm not. First of all, the prices aren't high. Second, what I'm actually defending is prestige and the worth of old video games, which now that I've said it out loud seems incredibly stupid, but I feel that it contributes to the malaise I've talked about in previous episodes. The attitude towards old video games as more of a right than a privilege. I mean, for God's sake, I just said a consumer product is a privilege. Stick with me here, folks. These games, downloaded by the thousands, played with save states and blitzed through before moving on to the next one, is not an appreciation of them, it's treating them as something to just burn through. No need to learn a game's nuances, just state saving. I first played Shinobi 3 on an emulator and I thought it was stupid, too hard bullshit. I cleared it with massive save scumming and repeated death. Then later I gave it another go, discovered you could actually block, and the game turned from a load of bullshit to a meaty but fair challenge. And I mean, I would have known that if I hadn't emulated it, if I, read the manual and understood the game. To say that a game is not worth money is just another way to dismiss it out of hand. If a game has monetary value, then it has relatively equivalent play value, obviously adjusted for, time passing, but when you buy a 50 quid game that lasts 4 hours, you usually would feel pretty ripped off. But 5 quid for a NES game that lasts 2 hours seems pretty fair to me, especially if you're going to replay, especially if it has nostalgia value to you. This is why I'm extremely excited about things like the Mega Man Legacy Collection and the Disney Afternoon Collection, as well as single releases like the 3D Classics series. They can take small numbers of games or single games and give them a royal treatment. This, to my mind, enhances their perception in the market, but of course everyone and their dog complained about the Legacy Collection because 12 quid for 6 highly regarded, historically significant and enjoyable to this day video games is absolutely egregious. Look, I'm repeating myself, you get it. Video games are good, old video games are good and important, and we should pay the frankly cheap prices they're asking for them. Developers Playtonic have recently come under fire for removing an arse from their Kickstarter darling Yooka-Laylee. When approached for comment, the arse made some flatulent noises that sounded remarkably like unsolicited opinions about immigration's effect on crime statistics. Next time on Arse News, I don't know, Pro Jared says something about Zionists and I pretend he's a bum. I'm not sure if I can actually be arsed with Bloodborne. There's a lot of bullshit posturing around it and the other games in the series, Demon's Souls, Dark Souls and Anti-Oda Insouls, mostly around their difficulty and how you need to get good. Seriously, go anywhere on the internet, even the Pornhub comments, and someone will be talking about how someone else needs to get good. Back when I played the original Dark Souls, I did persevere even though I found it screamingly frustrating at points. And yeah, sure, it felt cathartic to succeed, as would any rote action that you fail 100 times in a row at. Is that good design, as nebulous as that saying is? Or is it just chemical? You shit something up a lot, then succeed, and you get some chemicals released. Well done! I don't really know. I liked Dark Souls, I guess. You get this sort of idea of your story through the game, how everyone has their own Dark Souls tale to tell. I mean, here's my story. I died a lot, then I finished it. It's not really a very good story, is it? It's not exactly Jennifer Lopez in The Cell. So, like I was saying, can't be arsed with Bloodborne a bit. I can't tell if it's actually good or if it's just alternately annoying and then phew, killed the thingy. I'd like it a lot more if I didn't die all the time. And you see there, I've walked right into the get good trap that's eroded all valid criticism of these games. Well, the fact is, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to use a crutch if I want to. I mean, if I want to see all the cool stuff without having to walk past these same sort of grey walls over and over, and then you fight the big dog and you just die, It would be good if I just didn't have to do that, if I didn't want to. Made me think about games in the past and what the difference is, and then I figured it out. Cheats! No cheats anymore. Then I got thinking about how I'd implement them, and I realised that there's no valid counter-argument for why they couldn't just include a cheat menu in every single game, accessible at any time and usable without any punishment. I mean, sure, maybe don't give achievements, trophies, I'd be okay with that. Nintendo got it right a while back with Super Guide, and everyone fucking whinged about that because, the way I play with my toys is the only good way. You can't have Manny faces fight Super Krang, it's not right. So, yeah, let's be having some cheats. There's literally no reason not to include them. You don't have to use them, you big stud. You'd have your little achievements, your little picture of the boss that you beat. Just, I'd like to see all the levels in the 50 quid game I've bought, please. And I don't want to be locked out of it because you've pointlessly paid disrespect to my limited video game time. I think literally every PS1 game had cheats and it was great. Bring them back.
Dear Stu, how can you reconcile your desire for players to learn the nuances of and appreciate games with your desire for a cheat menu available at any time expressed within minutes of the same episode? You are a hack. Yours, NeoGaf. Ah, Last Generation. Remember Last Generation? I remember it as if it were yesterday. Oh wait, it was yesterday because Last Gen games are still coming out, aren't they? I'm still playing them. Anyway, I have no introduction plan, it's just a list of PlayStation 3 games you may or may not have heard of that I think are good. I'm not going to make any assumptions in that manner. Also, I think all these games are on the 360 too, but I chose PS3 because it's what I own them on and it's my show, so if you don't like it, I'm very sorry and please keep watching. I'm still bored with numbers, so this time I'm going to denote each game with an image from the Soul Calibur 2 Special Art Gallery. Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion XL.
This security system is overly secure. They really must not want you in there. A deflected projectile will probably trigger the door, so you can show them how right they probably were.
Besides having the worst title of any video game ever, Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion XL is a surprisingly good Smash Bros. Clone starring all of your favourite Cartoon Network characters if you ignore, say, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Over the Garden Wall, Regular Show, or My Gym Partner's a Monkey, which do not feature. Anyway, it's good. The stages are clever and dynamic and the gameplay is straight up ripped from Smash Bros., which means it's excellent, unlike the PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale debacle. The game is let down a little by its frame rate, and yeah, I know you don't tune into Video World to hear a man wanking on about frame rates. That's what literally every other gaming YouTuber is for. I hope I pronounced debacle correctly. Is it debacle? Debacle? Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 is a high-quality and surprisingly platformer. There's a campaign, God I hate calling single-player stuff a campaign, which takes you through stages based on the Pixar movie in a fairly traditional movie tie-in style. Then there's what I'd consider the meat of the game, a toy box mode in which you arse around in an open world based on Woody's Roundup, discovering new toys and items and populating your town. It's great fun and the whole thing can be played in split screen, making it fairly essential. Lots to see and do and a cut way above a lot of licensed games. Shadows of the Damned. Shadows of the Damned is an utterly demented third-person shooter filled with insane mechanics, barely comprehensible dialogue, and surprisingly excellent gunplay. One of the only games ever to make me laugh out loud. The experience is incredibly charming if a little bit grotesque, but get hooked by its grindhouse shenanigans and I guarantee a good, memorable time. Very video gamey indeed. WWE All-Stars. WWE All-Stars is great, even if you don't like wrestling. I do like wrestling, so for me it's double great. But it's a fantastic knockabout party game with ridiculous, exaggerated characters and insane moves. It's easy to pick up and play for anyone. It doesn't get confusing with technical combos and all sorts like the mainline games do. There's no real sim element to it, just silly action and modes with plentiful unlockables. Fantastic game, and one everyone who likes local multiplayer should own. Fuse. Fuse is, to my possibly demented mind, one of the best games on the PS3 and arguably the best time I had with the last generation. I played this for hours and hours with a mate of mine, beginning to end, then played loads of the included sort of horde-style mode. I played it alone too, just racking up experience, taking out mobs with the fantastic weapons you'd expect from a game made by the Ratchet & Clank guys. We're playing through on hard mode now and having a blast. It's a crime that this game didn't sell well or take off. It's absolutely fantastic fun. Everyone should buy it and play it with a friend. Highly, highly recommend it. There's an essential, irresistible romance to Kingdom Hearts for me. Tales of overcoming relentless odds with nothing more than the power of your heart, how the most devastating thing in the world is to lose the memories of the one that you love, and how those memories are so strong, they can quite literally physically manifest and fight by your side, imbue you with power and meaning. It's a game where Peter Pan tells you you can fly if you believe you can, and you do, and then you swoop around fighting Captain Hook, where everyone talks about this nebulous, ill-defined power of light and darkness, where Sora gives up his heart to save his missus and her love for him brings him inexplicably back to life. It's like a child telling a fairy story, and then Sora's wooden sword becomes a keyblade, but Pinocchio gets eaten by a whale in space, and you fight a tournament with Cloud and Yuffie and Squall, and then you buy a Mage's Staff from Huey, Dewey and Louie because, sure, and you slide down tree trunks with Tarzan, and it's magical, and it's wonderful, and I think the cynicism expressed towards it is totally misplaced. Again, it's like a small child wrote it on the spot with irrepressible and scattershot imagination. I love Kingdom Hearts.
We better go see what's up, man. 2B.
Okay, so I googled this and I looked into it on forums and stuff, and I'm amazed that it appears until now that no one has acknowledged the fact that the hub area in Nier Automata is the spaceship from the music video for Michael and Janet Jackson's Scream. I don't know if there's some way to monetize this observation, but I feel like it's a potent one, and some sort of reward needs to come to me. But send this clip to people who you think might Patreon me, because I feel like that sole observation has justified 14 episodes of Video World. So, you might be wondering what happened to the epic finale, to the chimp and frog thing that was gonna happen. Well, actually, I have some tragic news about that. The actors who portrayed the chimp and the frog were on their way to the set, and they got into a bit of a fender bender, and they did not live. So this whole thing I wrote, this whole really impressive thing, really complex animation with tweens and all sorts. You never seen such tweening. You'd think it was well beyond my abilities, but now, unfortunately, that can't happen because they have died. I'm really sorry if you feel let down by that anticlimax. I'm sorry if you wanted more from those performers who gave their lives. It was going to be this really spectacular season finale, really flashy and satisfying. But instead we're left with grief. We're left with grief. So instead of a spectacular sort of outlandish anime-style final battle between me and a chimp and the frog, we're gonna have a minute's silence to remember them. Thanks for watching the second series of my show. I'm sorry we had to end it on this sad note. Sorry that my trousers fell down.